How do you know when it's the right time to escalate during that game?
I'm going to go with calibration, field time. You know, you eventually develop an intuition for it. So, um, man, so I'm a big fan of basically small steps in escalating, incrementalism, if you will, right? Like, so some people will establish themselves as a touchy feely guy right from the get go. And there's value to doing that in certain circumstances. Touch early, touch often is the adage. But I'm more a fan of touching incrementally and slowly, withdrawing the touch in calculated manner and gauging the woman's response to that. So my first touch is usually something simple like, oh my God, check this out. I touch her arm and I immediately pull it back as I'm telling a story. Okay. As I continue telling the story, I'm going to gauge her comfort level based on that little small bit of touch, right? So my touch starts very small and light. And then what I'll typically do when I'm getting signals that attraction is growing from her is I'll do something that's a little bit more playful and physical. So, for example, if we're walking side by side, my favorite one is to just give her a little shoulder bump, just bump her with my shoulder. And then she looks at me and I'm like, yeah, what? What are you going to do? Right? Like playful play fight. That right there indicates to me where her attraction level is. Okay. And this is something that I can actually feel almost on a sensory level. I can tell when the magnetism is sort of starting to grow because I've been through this so many times. It's an intuition similar to a martial artist that can sense what an opponent is about to throw their way. Um, from there, I'll go for the kiss, right? So if I'm going to sequence out my touches, it's a light social touch of some sort. It's a playful shoulder bump, and then at some point in the future, maybe right after the shoulder bump, maybe a little bit further down the road, I'm going to kiss, and then depending on the intensity level of the kiss, I'm going to determine if we're saving things for date number 2 or 3 or whatever, or if she is uh, ready, if she's turned on. I'm always gauging comfort levels and I'm moving step by step, nice and slow.
Yeah, I have almost nothing to add to that. I think that it's funny that you mentioned the shoulder bump because that's something that I've been doing and talking about for a long time. And guys are usually surprised to hear that I have that sort of, because they think it's like this suave sort of like, let me be sexual with you, but it's a lot more of just like you said, like a tap of the hand, a tap of the arm, and then a look back to see, or that shoulder bump. I like that a lot. And the intuition too, this notion that like when you begin to do these things, you think that it's just like you think you won't know. Like a lot of guys are like, but how do you know? How do you know? It's like, well, you will know. And so yeah, beautifully said, bro. That was really nice.
Well, I also want to add something in it because as what Eric said here, it's like we're making a build up. So what we're doing is like we are creating a connection, and connection is actually based on understanding. I want to understand her perspectives. I want to understand what is important for her and why that is. And I'm going to have a dynamic conversation where I'm going to share a little bit about myself in the same topic. But then we're coming to the area I used to call the power of admittance. So we start admitting that, you know what, I find you really attractive. And then you start touching a little bit. And what you said there, it gives me goosebumps. Just look. I mean, and you continue giving, a light touch in the same time as you use in context, giving her a genuine compliment and also admit that you find her sexually attractive in the end, and then you go for it. Then you have a smooth way of creating that attraction that goes, into like physical escalation, because many guys doing the wrong thing. They're just talking, they're just being funny, being playful, but it's just very plateau. And suddenly they're trying to make, a move based on nothing. And one of the biggest mistakes is not to take context and make a move. They're taking things for thin air and make a move. And that's going to make the woman like defend themselves. Even though they find you sort of attractive, you haven't made a build up. So the build up comes from first connection. And when you start with relationship building, I'm not, the relationship building can be one night stand, but when you start with the relationship building, that is when you start admitting that you're finding her attractive. And then you're finding her sexual attractive. And you moving it on until you find the right spot to actually make a move, like kissing and so on.
I'm glad you got
And
to go ahead, Erik.
And I was going to say, and in defense of the guys that make that abrupt move, I've done it a million times, especially when I was young, when I was in high school and so forth. I remember there's so many times where I wanted to kiss a woman and I wasn't sure if she was ready. And I just, some friend would say, just go for it, and I'd hear their voice in my head, just go for it, right? So here I go, and I'd go for the kiss. My heart would be pounding out of my chest, adrenaline rush. And sometimes it would go well and work out, and sometimes it wouldn't, so it's natural when a guy is first learning to calibrate that he's going to have that just go for it mentality. But over time, you learn to smooth it out a little bit. I do believe that learning some concepts like incrementalism and some systems for escalating can make that transition a little bit smoother. Luckily, women are very forgiving in this department. They realize that most men were not given a guidebook on how to escalate physically. So if the guy's a little too abrasive or a little choppy, she's going to be forgiving, especially if she really likes you. So as you were saying, Michael, I think it's very important to look for indications that the woman, that her attraction is building and that she's ready for it. Don't try to kiss her when you're ready. Just try to make her ready and then escalate.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. Absolutely.
I, on the other hand, am not so forgiving when she gives the old hand job and rips it harder than a fucking, I don't know.
Oh man, we just went there. You just went there. I shouldn't say we. You just went there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what do you
It
mean?
was me.
Yeah,
I
you guys
went
are
there.
you guys are really bright. I want to say quick because I know we are gonna eventually. I don't want to take over the wrapping up aspect of this, but um, I'm a bit. I'm happily surprised that the conversation was as deep as it was. Like we've managed, I think, to actually we talked about this potential documentary someone was gonna come up with for us or something, or in light of game or something in a good, hopefully ideally in a good light. And yeah, I mean, you guys, this is my first time interacting with you, Michael, and with you, Erik, and like you two both have a very deep understanding of what I think guys actually want, and what and how these women actually respond to that, which is saying something, because I think it's lost on a lot of these quick fix solution type, you know, coaches or videos that you'll catch in glimpse. So I really appreciate that. And I actually just came from teaching a university course. I'm lucky enough to be teaching a course right now called Critical Pedagogies and Literacies, which is all about radicalizing learning and creating critical thinking in a sort of radical way. Um, Typically, it's epitomized by problem posing, and this falls and empathy, right? And so this falls right in line with all these things that we're talking about. So to come into this room, I almost thought I was taking off one hat and putting on another, but I didn't have to, and I appreciate you guys for that a lot. So thank you.